Hi, Muse. It's me. You remember me, don't you? Of course you remember me. It's only been a week since we've had a conversation. And you've had plenty of conversations in my head. You know you have. So I want to talk about something with you, Muse. Something that has come up in my life a number of occasions. And I believe that it is an important issue to talk about with artists. I went to a liberal arts school. What is a liberal arts school? Well, the definition of a liberal arts school is, it's kind of ephemeral. It's kind of ethereal. It's kind of out there. Ask different people and you'll get a different answer. But here's my answer to what a liberal arts school is. A liberal arts school is a school that believes that a well-rounded education is more important than a very focused education. So instead of being a conservatory where you study one thing and only one thing, you go to a liberal arts school and you study more things. I went to a liberal arts school for undergraduate school, and then I went to graduate school and studied a single subject. And I think that I became a better artist for it. And that has been really, really hit home recently. And the event that caused me to remember that was I Profundis. Actually, it wasn't just I Profundis. It was me directing I Profundis. Now, for those of you who haven't been paying attention, like you in the back row, shame on you. I Profundis is a one-man show that I wrote, that I was commissioned to write by a theater. And after I submitted the play, they loved it, and they decided that they wanted me to direct it as well. Now, I haven't directed anything since the 90s, but I had to while I was in grad school studying acting. I have an MFA in acting. While I was there, I also had to study directing. I also had to study script analysis and other things, but most of what I studied was centered around acting. But why study directing? Well, it was a good thing that I studied directing so I could actually do what I was asked to do for this play. But why? What does it help? What does it matter? Let me tell you what it matters, why it matters, and why I believe that every artist should expand their artistic toolkit to include other mediums, so that actors should learn how to direct, and directors should learn how to act, and writers of fiction should learn how to write poetry or nonfiction, and writers in general should take acting classes. As I've been directing I Profundis, I've stepped onto the other side of the stage, of the footlights, as it were, to help another actor get to where they need to be. And I've had to use different verbiage, different language, different ways of helping this actor get to where they need to be. And it's been incredibly enlightening, because there have been times when I have had directors say something to me as an actor. They gave me direction. And sometimes I would wonder, why are they saying that? Why are they telling me this? I know where I need to be, not physically, but mentally or emotionally. I know where I need to get to. And they're telling me this. I don't understand why. I once had a director, and was probably one of the greatest pieces of direction that I've ever been given. But at the time I was given the direction, I didn't realize it. I had a director come up to me, put his arm around my shoulder, pull me away from everybody else, and he said, I want you to think of this scene as a Picasso painting with water spots. Now, at the moment, I was like, how do I translate that into something that I can use? Well, I went away from that rehearsal and I thought about it, and I realized what that director meant. A Picasso painting, perfection, with water spots. So something very tiny ruined something very great. And I was able to translate that and use it in the scene, and it worked perfectly. And as I have been directing I Profundis, now I have a special relationship with the actor performing. We've worked together a lot, so we know how each other works. And I know that there are moments where I can direct in a certain way, and then there are moments where I can direct in another way. For example, there have been times when I've had to speak in metaphor. Metaphor is the greatest tool in the artist's toolkit. So I would use a metaphor for what I believe the scene is, and the actor would go, "Okay, I get that," or I would have to explain it a little further. But eventually, they would understand it. But the thing is, and why I think this is so important, is it gives me a different perspective, so that the next time I'm acting in a show, I can do so with a greater appreciation for what the director has to do and why the director does what the director does. It's just like, as a writer, one of the best tools I have in my toolbox came from improv classes, because those improv classes helped me to understand how to create a narrative on the fly, or how to write dialogue on the fly. And I'm fairly certain that without those improv classes that I took and the other acting classes that I took, that I would not be able to write dialogue as easily as I can. And I believe that it is crucial for every artist to venture outside of their chosen medium and work with something else. I don't think it really matters what you work with. If you're a writer, go take a pottery class. Go take a painting class, or a sculpting class, or an acting class, or a dance class. Doesn't matter. What's important is that you are exercising your artistic brain in a different way. You're learning a different artistic vocabulary. Because I believe that the more you broaden your artistic language, the better it's going to be. It's just like, imagine a surgeon. That was my glasses falling out of my pocket. Imagine a surgeon who only ever studied one thing. And let's just say that they only ever studied how to fix this one finger. Now, they probably are the best in the world at repairing this finger. But that's all they can do. Now, that same surgeon decides at some point, maybe I should learn how to fix this finger, or this thumb. So they study that. All of a sudden, they're the best at these two. And then they realize, well, people have more than hands. Let me study the elbow and the shoulder. And all of a sudden, they've studied the entire body. And they're a more well-rounded surgeon. And they can do anything. They can operate on any part of the body. So it is an actor's duty to constantly be improving their craft. And that doesn't always mean that you improve your craft by focusing in on that one very small aspect. You don't want to get too granular. You can study the craft of writing by studying the craft of acting or the craft of directing. Or if you're a writer of fiction, you can improve your fiction by studying poetry or writing poetry, practicing poetry, because you're going to learn a new rhythm. You're going to learn a new style. You're going to learn how to use metaphor more effectively. Anything that you can do to improve your craft is a must-do. And I know it's hard because we're so busy. I mean, think about this. You've written a book. The easy part's done. Then you've got to market it. That's, for me, Marketing is a completely different language. I do not get marketing. I try. I try and I try and I try, and I'm always trying something different. And, I've had varying levels of success with marketing, but it's not my strong point. My strong point is actual act of writing. And I tend to focus more on that than anything. So I have to force myself to go, okay, I need to broaden my scope here. I need to do more, be better at other things. And so recently I started focusing on Facebook ads and improving my Facebook ads. But that really has nothing to do with the craft. It has to do with the business. But you got to do that too. As for the craft of writing, the way I improve that is I will take time and focus on a different area of art. I'll write a play. I'll act in a play. I'll direct a play. I'll be in a musical. I'll write poetry. Anything I can. Absolutely anything I can. Whether it is directly related to writing fiction, or if it's adjacent to writing fiction, or if it has nothing to do with writing fiction. As long as I am creating and exercising my creative brain and my creative soul, I believe that I am improving my craft. And sometimes you just have to get creative. I know one writer she's a fantastic writer, and she, over the past year or so, I think, she started doing blackout poetry. And she's fantastic at it. And I know that doing that blackout poetry helps to improve her writing. Anything you can do. Sometimes you could sit down on a couch and you could start watching films or television with a very critical eye and start figuring out what works and what doesn't work. Even that is improving your craft. Watch people. People watching is great. And as an actor, you're always having to people watch because you're learning how people interact and different and unique traits of people. It's just everything you can take in becomes part of your toolkit. And you should be doing that as a writer as well, because you'll find some very unique traits, traits of humanity and personality that you can then use for your characters. Your ability to observe as an artist is something that must be keen and must be honed at all times. Whatever you can do to improve it, do it. I've rambled on long enough, I think. Anyway, Muse, thank you for listening to me. I know that I tend to blather on a bit, but hey, I'm an artist. That's what happens. We can have a tendency to go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Oh my God. Thank you for listening to me, Muse. And thank you, fellow artists and humans. I just want to make sure that you know that every single day that you are alive, and possibly even beyond that, you are awesome.